Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of our Oxford Open Innovation Thursdays, this conversation that we have every week about open innovation. My name is Marisol Menendez. I'm host of this podcast, and I'm also an open innovation enthusiast. And I have my own company, Vilakatu, working in open innovation and ecosystem orchestration. And that's why it's such a joy for me every week to have the possibility to speak with each of the authors of the chapters of the Oxford Handbook of Open Innovation. And today is no less. We are welcoming today Keld Laursen. Hello, how are you? Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Welcome. Where are you connecting from today?
I'm connecting from Copenhagen Business School in Copenhagen.
This is amazing. We love how we are connecting from all over the world. And this is also part of the open innovation characteristic from the book. But we also like to learn about the people who are behind each of the chapters. So can we ask you, please, to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your career?
Sure. So my name is Keld Laursen. I'm a professor here at Copenhagen Business School at the Department of Strategy and Innovation. And until another 10 days, I'm the head of department. I've been head of department for 7.5 years. And open innovation is one of the things that we study quite intensively here at the department. Now I'm stepping down to focus more on research, including that on open innovation. So coming back to how sort of my career in this area started, I was a student of economics at the University of Aalborg. And I got recruited as a student assistant in the group of Bengt-Åke Lundvall, who was studying innovation systems, and these kind of things. It was a very dynamic group. And when I got to do I think it was my 8th semester, Bengt-Åke sort of nudged me to do a master's degree abroad. And there was this sort of hotspot of Europe at the time, and to some extent, of course, still, that's SPRU at the University of Sussex. So I went to do a master's degree at the University of Sussex, and I did the master's thesis with Keith Pavitt there. I got exposed to people like Chris Freeman, Nick von Tunselman, and all these people who were at SPRU studying innovation. At that time, I was sort of more into, let's say, more aggregate phenomena of the economy, of course, with a point of departure being Schumpeter and things like this. But as I went to SPRU, I also got more and more interested in the firm level. Nevertheless, I came back to Aalborg and I did my PhD on innovation, specialization, and international trade. So it was still sort of that in that macro space. And then in this period, I went back to SPRU and got further inspiration and so on. So I finished my PhD on this. Got an offer from Copenhagen Business School, not from the Department of Economics, but from the Department of Strategy. And there was a fellow called Nikolai Foss, and I met him. I knew him from before, to be perfectly honest, but he was sort of saying to me, "What are you doing here, Keld?" And I think that was his way of saying, if you want to do well here, you should become somewhat more a management scholar and be more focused on the micro. So I didn't take this badly, and actually we started collaborating after this on sort of the combined insights from strategy and innovation. And then after that, I collaborated with Nikolai, Eamon Salter at the same time, who I got to know him from the SPRU days. But he was sort of more interested in sort of political science things, systems, more aggregate stuff as well. But he was also converging towards something more micro. And then we were friends, but we were not collaborators. But then we got to collaborate as our research areas were converging. So we wrote some papers, one in Cambridge Journal of Economics about the link between the economic sphere and scientific specialization. We went on to do the first paper in 2004 on the role of openness for firms in collaborating, in initiating a collaboration with universities. So we were saying that it's not only about firms having higher R&D intensity or being larger and things like this that would determine this. It's also their attitude towards innovation, whether or not they're open. So if they're more open, they will also be more open to universities. And I remember that Eamon had an early version when we wrote this paper. He had actually a draft version of Henry's book,
Oh,
later
yeah.
very famous open innovation book. So we were actually some of the first people, I think, actually to
To have
use
it.
this book in our own research. And we cited, that paper got eventually published in Research Policy in 2004. And then we did follow up work, our paper on openness from 2006 and so on. So since then, I've had a research stream on this. Appropriability that we're going to talk about today was always an important topic on this. How does it relate to the classical concepts in innovation studies, appropriability being one of them? I think the other one that we have, or I have, and we have examined extensively, that's the link between open innovation and absorbed capacity. But so we try to sort of combine this new insights and new phenomena, open innovation, with the sort of the classical themes within innovation studies. So I think that's that's my background, broadly speaking.
And how it all connects, no, at the end with the open innovation topics that we've been discussing about. I'm also very enthusiastic right now about absorptive capacity. So this is all very interesting. And very interesting that today we are talking about chapter 56. And I emphasize that there are 57 chapters. So we are just one chapter left in the review that we are doing with the authors. And after this, we will continue conversations with others. But of course, this is a very important and very beautiful moment for us. Chapter 56 is Complementarities and Tensions between Appropriability and Open Innovation. And you co-authored this, no? But you're the lead author here with this.
It's totally shared. It's alphabetical. So I don't want to. I will take my full responsibility, but I didn't author anything more than the other two co-authors.
Yeah, you can talk a little bit about them and why you have this chapter in the book.
So now this is some time ago, so I'm not sure that I can recollect it in details, but I'm sure we got invited to write this chapter, Eamon and I, because we have been working extensively on open innovation. And perhaps it was like this, if I remember correctly. Then Deepak was invited maybe in the beginning to do another chapter, but we know Deepak, Eamon and I, and we thought, why don't we just join forces and write one chapter? And then it was also an opportunity to work with Deepak, which was the first time for me. So that was a sort of a great experience. So it's good, it's it's both at the same time. It's sort of like something old working with Eamon and something new working with the Deepak. So that was quite straightforward. We had a few online meetings discussing what should the structure be and things like this, and then we started writing.
And it's always something that catches my attention, that this book in itself is an effort in open innovation, connecting teams that maybe didn't work before, generating new knowledge. And what is this chapter about? We know it's complementarities and tensions between appropriability and open innovation, but what did you want to convey here? What are the learnings and the main takeouts?
Okay, so I think we should start with, so we would sort of like to give a very quick background for the literature in this area, so to sort of get the reader on board first. So that's what we do, and then all three of us sort of have an interest in posing questions that relates to critical and trade-offs. So often it's like this. I mean, that's also have been my take on open innovation when it came around. That is to say, okay, there's a reason why firms adopt open innovation. It's a response to something. It has really some very positive connotations, but everything we do in the economic system has some costs. So we have to sort of not only look for these benefits, but also the costs of this. And that's sort of how I, and I think also my two co-authors, sort of perceive research in general. I mean, how it should be done around trade-offs. Obviously, that's how we then structured the chapter. Then it is then to identify key areas of open innovation or key aspects of open innovation, and then define some trade-offs and describe what tips it in one or the other direction. We also find this interesting for proposing new research towards the end.
And this is very interesting because this is part of the last section of the book, which is challenges, critiques, and suggestions, and also a way that we are using to know the future opportunities for research. And even though open innovation is more or less a recent concept because it has 20 years, we have enough time to have learnings and learn about these tensions, that we are talking about, and be aware and active about the costs. I also like that these challenges also the practitioners, So what are the concrete learnings that we can take out both for academia and practitioners, and what are the main takeouts from the chapter?
No, I think we are not, we have, let me just start with where I think see the open innovation phenomena in the first place. I mean, that's a real world phenomena that we observe going on in a number of organizations, including business firms. So that's why it's an interesting area in the first place. It's because it goes on in real practice. So we are not sort of writing a theoretical piece that is far removed from reality. So actually, each of the trade-offs that we describe, they are accompanied with a couple of it's not a long format, right? We're not writing a book here. We're just simply writing a relatively short handbook chapter. But we do have concrete examples of each of these trade-offs. So I mean, so for instance, this idea that we have of the coordination tension, that when firms have to engage in open innovation, it's a give and take process, and a number of problems can emerge there. So one problem is that if you don't perceive the same value of what you're giving, this will give rise to coordination problems and derived collaboration problems. So putting these things on the table and actually concretely discussing what can be done to mitigate these problems. We also have the generative appropriability tension. So this idea that sometimes firms have to let knowledge go to let somebody else develop it. But then the problem is that they can do with that knowledge whatever they want, and perhaps they can take you over. So in that case, you have to think carefully about contract design before giving this away, because while you may want them to work on your knowledge, you don't want to overtake you in your own product area. I mean, so this is just a couple of examples, but you can come up with numerous of examples of things that firms and the managers in those firms need to consider carefully before engaging in open innovation. It sounds like sort of like a open innovation is wonderful. Let's just go into it. Let's share knowledge and so on. Joint co-creation. We'll get tons of profits and so on. But it's while I think it's well established that it will generate additional value. It also comes down to who then appropriates this value. And this is what the chapter is about. Who will then benefit from this? And if you don't design it carefully, then it may be that one party will run away with all the benefits and one is maybe even getting negative spillover. But it can be mediated if it's thought out carefully.
And I think it's part of the art and craft. By the way, this is one of the first chapters of the book. But in reality, we practitioners see it. This is a challenge. And for me, the main question is, how do we create long-lasting and productive relationships with those who we collaborate with?
Right.
The mystery is about appropriability, that we make sure that we capture value, each of the participants here, and more when we are talking about the systems and ecosystems that are in place. Any special advice or any insights that you can say, if you are reading the book, please take a special look into this element or be aware to have this kind of mindset?
Sort of like in our chapter specifically, I mean one message is this one about, actually this is for us as academics to look for trade-offs, but I think also for practitioners it is a useful mental exercise to try to think about the benefits you can derive from this, but also potential pitfalls before you get into it. So one thing is, of course, to try to build up trust with other people and things like this. But even in these relationships, things can go wrong down the line if it's not carefully considered. So that I think is sort of that's my general message. So that's maybe for practitioners. I also do think that I think we have a well-founded call for more research in this area. There's sort of tons of stuff that we don't know and that researchers should pay even more attention to. So that is sort of what we dwell at the ending. Sort of like the paradox of openness, this idea that you know, to get something you have to give something away. But if you know, put too much emphasis on appropriating, that may be poison for collaboration. If you don't pay any attention to it, you may lose out on actually any benefits from open innovation. So that whole relationship, I think we know something about that, but it's just the beginning of a big research agenda, the way I see it.
And I think you are also bringing forward one of the challenges we have in research is that we have real life data that needs also to be analyzed. So we might complete this with a call to action to practitioners to share their real cases so academics can extract the knowledge and learnings from that. And I think there's a lot still to be learned from the appropriability and the paradox
I think,
of
but if I can
openness.
add to this, I think actually as also a teacher, I think this has been another great area to enter. I think it's great that practitioners can share this, that they should share even more. But they have already shared quite a lot that we bring into the classroom, and this is very inspiring. It's when we teach this to students, it's not difficult, or for this paper for that matter. But for students, it's not difficult to find cases because there are so many out there, and practitioners are often willing to share them. You know, of course, if I can encourage that they do it even more, then that's great. Because I did this just to say on my side that it is, even if practitioners don't know that, it is extremely important here at a place like CBS that we have the cases, so that it doesn't be sort of like become a theoretical lecture. You can use it to make cases for students that they have to solve and things like this. And that's exactly what we do. We train students who will go out in business afterwards and work with these problems. And for that, we need theory and so on that we are very good at universities, but we need to combine that with the cases.
This is very, very nice. Well, this has been a very interesting chapter, and I think it's a critical one because the appropriability is a key element to continue collaboration. And I think the learnings through time in the practice world, at least this is what I know, is that it's maybe one of the main reasons why people stop collaborating. So it's not a minor topic here, and we need to pay close attention. And this is a very important chapter, even if it's just the one before the last.
Right.
Thank you very much for your time today. As you know, we like to spend these 15 minutes of nice conversation one-to-one. And we invite everyone to keep reading the chapters. Remember that you can buy individual chapters or the whole book. And also that you can access site and of course, look into the other chapters that we already have recorded. It's not an easy book to lift.
No, it's quite heavy, but I do have it here. It's normally on the shelf just behind me, as it is an important book overall. Not only our chapter, but also the other 56 chapters that's available there. So it's something, you know, when there's something that I don't know, you know, you turn around, you take out the book, and then it's very likely that there'll be a chapter exactly on what you would like to know about. By you know, people who really know about their topic.
Exactly. And there are so many chapters to support what you're talking about. Like, for example, the one in trust that there's a full chapter discussing trust from the ethics perspective. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the open innovation dynamics, and the open, sorry, not the ugly, by Joanna Stefan. We have many interrelated chapters. Also, we have about KPIs. And so I think that we can begin interconnecting as well the knowledge that we already learned and gathered from the book. Thank you very much once again for your time. And I invite everyone to keep tuning in into the podcast, because next week we will have the last chapter, but also we will continue our interviews and connections so we can keep doing our Open Innovation Thursdays. Thank you very much, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you.